Pull up a chair, friends. Pour yourself some tea and don't rush. Today we're not talking about miracles or lucky breaks. We're going to talk about the quiet stuff, our plain, everyday choices. People love to swap stories about how someone lucked out with great parents, or a perfect boss, or a birthday written in the stars. I listen, I nod, and another thought runs through my head. Show me how a person spends a normal day, and I'll tell you where they'll be 10 years from now. That's not prophecy. It's just that life is stubborn. It isn't built from rare fireworks. It's built from a string of repeatable, often boring actions. When I was a kid, I'd get shooed out of the kitchen. Go on, don't get in the way of the grown-ups, they'd say. I'd still camp in the hallway, lean against the door, and listen. One evening, an older man said, "A solid house stands not on bricks, but on mortar." I didn't get it then. Later I saw it. The bricks are our talents and opportunities. The mortar is our habits. With bad mortar, even the fanciest brick wall crumbles. With good mortar, simple clay can stand for ages. Let me tell you a few stories. No heavy morals at the first turn. You'll hear what matters along the way. I used to have a neighbor at an old neighborhood flea market. Our stalls were side by side. He sold gingerbread. I sold tea and dried fruit. Every morning we met at the entrance. And every morning he started the day the same way. "Ugh, no customers today. The weather's wrong." Yesterday too. Tomorrow as well, probably. Every day, the same script. And me? I kept asking, what's in my control right now? I swapped out the sign, moved the jars so they'd catch the light, tried a new blend. His tongue was getting a workout complaining. Mine was practicing how to find options. By evening, I had lived a day. He had talked one away. I know I sound wise now, talking about focus on what you can change. Back then, I just didn't want to go home empty-handed with another long ballad about the weather. We don't notice how quickly our tongue learns to whine while our hands are still learning the work. A complaint is like a hole in your pocket. Doesn't matter how many coins you drop in, they'll spill out on the way. Don't ban yourself from feeling. Everyone gets heavy minutes. But build the habit. The second your brain flashes, everything's terrible. Ask one simple, almost childlike question. What can I do right now to get even one step better? Not tomorrow. Not after the holidays. Right now. One call. One email. Move the desk. Do 10 squats if nothing else comes to mind. It's not heroism. It's taking the wheel back in your own hands. I had a friend, Eric. He was so quick he'd catch a joke before it left your lips. People envied him, and he liked himself too. He had talent, connections, a good family. He lacked one thing: launch. Not yet, he'd say. I'll finish the website after the holidays. Monday, as soon as I'm back from my trip. Hear it? As soon as is a fancy formula for eternal waiting. Years passed. We'd bump into each other, and he'd still be telling me how soon it would happen. Over time, tomorrow became someday. I'm not mocking him, God forbid. I just know the price of a day you push forward. One day turns into a habit. A habit hardens into character. Character writes your fate. But how do I start, you ask? What if there's nothing inside, and laziness feels like cold water? Here's a simple trick I use. The 2-breath rule. Whatever you're going to do, write the first word before your second breath. Put your sneakers on before a slow 2. Open the file and type the title before your shoulders slump. That's it. The launch is done. Your brain doesn't need a lecture. It needs a tiny shove. After that, it will gather its own momentum. There's another thing I see a lot. It's like rust. First a little spot, then it eats the whole sheet. Envy. How does it show up? Quietly. Your neighbor buys a car and a little mosquito inside you goes, "Why not me?" A coworker gets a promotion. Another pinprick. Watch what envy does. You had 20 units of energy. 10 vanished in that sting. 5 burned in inner arguments. 5 more went to excuses. 0 left for any actual improvement. That's arithmetic, not sermonizing. I knew 2 tailors who worked in the same courtyard. One had clients lined out the door. He'd measure with a smile, choose the lining with the customer, thread steady in his fingers. The other, watching that line, kept muttering, "He's just lucky. He's connected. He dumps his prices." Not once did he ask, Maybe he sews corners cleaner. Maybe he's kinder in conversation. Maybe he keeps a warm coffee pot by the door so people feel welcome. The first tailor had an evening ritual. He took a sheet of paper and wrote 3 lines. What worked for me today, and why? What was he doing better? What will I try tomorrow? I call this learning joy. First, celebrate someone else's success sincerely. Then take 1 or 2 patterns from it for yourself. Envy is a poor teacher. Joy is a great one. Do you know what else teaches badly? The blame game. We've got a full name for every bump in the road. The parents missed it. The boss didn't get it. The government is useless. My spouse said something. My friend didn't show up. The bus ran late. You can make a very impressive list. Problem is, while you're writing that list, your life ends up in somebody else's pocket, and you chase them around for it. Here's a little trick that saves me. I call it 10% of the wheel. Even if the world behaved unfairly, ask, which 10% of this mess is mine? Maybe I didn't check the contract. Maybe I agreed to a timeline I didn't believe in. Maybe I kept silent when I had to speak up. Take back at least 1/10 of the wheel today, and maybe tomorrow you'll reclaim 1/5. Now I'll say a word people don't love because it's quiet and boring. Ritual. Ritual is a crutch your will can lean on when it's tired. I keep an old, thick notebook in my drawer. I call it my honesty notebook. Every night I write 3 short lines. First, where today did I look for a solution instead of an excuse? Second, what did I start without bargaining before I could think up an objection? Third, what did someone else's success teach me? 5 minutes, sometimes 3. Sometimes I manage only 1 line and it annoys me. The day went by and I just ran in circles. I get mad and still write, tomorrow, first thing, call so-and-so. Then I put the notebook on the table so I'll trip over it in the morning. Not because I'm a saint, because I'm as lazy as anyone, and I know that if I don't lay little rails for myself, I'll wander down the well-worn shortcut called later. Don't circumstances matter? You'll ask. Of course they do, but circumstances are the weather. You're the boat. In bad weather you can raise a different sail, duck into a harbor, toss some weight overboard. Or you can stand on the pier and yell at the waves. Yelling is easier, moving is useful. Here's a thought that stings at first, then helps. Self-pity is a dangerous candy. It tastes good. It warms you for 5 minutes. In the morning, you're in the same bed you already left. Swap self-pity for self-care. Those are different dishes. Pity says, lie down, you've had it rough. Care says, get up, you'll feel better. Care is tougher, but it hands your life back to you. Sometimes people say, you're just tough, easy for you to talk. Want the secret? I'm not tough. I've just spent years building an environment that's smarter than I am on my worst day. I leave my phone in another room when I sit down to write. I keep my sneakers by the door so I literally trip over them in the morning. I make a date with a friend to swim on Tuesdays so it's awkward not to show up. That's not force of character. It's a clever hack against my own weakness. Anyone can use it. So, back to where we started. Show me your day and I'll tell you where you're headed. What does your ordinary day look like? Where does the complaint switch flip on automatically? And how can we replace it with a question about influence? Where do you have a chronic "not now"? And what action can you bite off in 2 seconds before your mind launches a lecture? Where do you look at someone else's success and the inner mosquito buzzes? Why not me? How do you say instead, good for them? What exactly did they do? And what will I try tomorrow? Where are you handing over the captain's chair to everyone? Your boss, your neighbor, the news algorithm? And how do you take back even 1/10? Don't promise yourself a new life on Monday. Too loud. Brains don't like loud promises. They get spooked and sabotage them. Make a quiet deal with yourself for the next 7 days. 7 is a good number. It fits in your palm. 7 days without public complaints. 7 days of the 2-breath rule for any start. 7 days of learning joy. Every day, find one person and genuinely rejoice in their success, and then write down one reason they pulled it off and one step you'll steal for yourself. 7 days of the 10% wheel. In every annoyance, ask honestly, what part of this was in my hands? Here's the fun part. By day 3 you'll notice something odd. The world didn't change, but you're looking at it differently. Where the long monologue, Why it's not the time used to start, your hand will reach for the pen to write the first word. Where you used to say, he's got connections, you'll catch a different thought. My neighbor's right there. I've wanted to talk to him for months. I'll go knock. Where you used to hunt for the guilty, you'll ask, fine, we'll find culprits later. What can I do for my 10% right now? I knew a woman, 3 kids, husband working 2 jobs, sick grandmother at home. She dreamed of finishing nursing school. When? I asked. When the kids grow up, she said. I gave her the same kind of notebook and said, write 3 lines in the evening, and every morning 1 step, no bargaining. A year later, I ran into her at a clinic. She stood by the procedure room with steady hands. When did you manage all this? I asked. When I stopped waiting for a convenient day, she said. She didn't win the lottery or find a magic wand. She just took back the wheel 10% at a time, every day. I'm not telling a fairy tale where the hero slays a dragon with 1 swing. Our dragon is yesterday's habit. You don't beat it with a sword, you feed it a spoonful less every day. Don't laugh at the spoon. It feeds your future. Ask yourself right now. Don't postpone. What one thing can I do before the day ends so it's easier to breathe tomorrow? Call the person you've been avoiding. Outline 3 tiny steps for the task you've been postponing for a month. Sit for 5 minutes and write 3 lines in the honesty notebook. Do 1 thing. Tomorrow, 1 more. The day after, again 1. In a week, you'll look back and see that outside everything's the same, but inside it's a little brighter.